Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I'm doing my April wrap up. This was another month of declining ratings. I'm hoping that this does not continue to be a trend, but at least for this month it was. The first book that I read was The Battle Drum. This is book 2 in the Ending Fire trilogy. I had an arc of it and it comes out on May 23rd. I do have a full review of the first book, The Final Strife, and I will have that linked in the cards and the description for you. But in that first book, we're following 3 characters in an empire where there's a caste system based on the color of your blood. I really enjoyed The Final Strife and I ended up rating book 2 4.25 stars. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's the middle of a trilogy, but if you like fantasy and blood magic, then I would recommend it. Next, Robin and I buddy read The Heart Principle. This is the final book in the Kids Quotient series, so that's one series I can check off. I liked the characters in this book and I enjoyed the story. This is my second favorite in the series. I know a lot of people dislike it because they say it feels like less of a romance because there's heavy topics in it. However, I personally don't think that took away from the romance at all. It is still very much a romance. It is still very much about these 2 characters developing their relationship. So I don't know why people feel that way. It's also not like it's completely unheard of to have some serious topics in a romance, so I don't know why people feel that way, but clearly I disagree. I ended up rating this 4 stars, much better than The Bride Test for sure. However, there was one character in here that I wanted to fight. It was Priscilla, the sister of our female main character. I have an entire video talking about fictional characters that I would square up with. I will also have that linked for you, but I actually really like this one. I know a lot of people don't, but I thought it was really good. Next, I DNF'd All the Feels by Olivia Dade. This is the second book in the Spoiler Alert series. I also have a DNF review of this if you want to hear more of my thoughts. I can't really say what it's about because I only made it 4 pages in, but yeah, you can watch that video if you're interested. Next, I read Sinful Redemption. This is Mafia Misfits number 2 by Asia Monique. This is the Black Mafia series on Kindle Unlimited. Really enjoyed this one. I rated it 4 stars. I already started book 3. I'm also enjoying that one so far. I just really love this series, and I think that if you're a fan of Mafia or interested in getting started in Mafia, this is a good place to go because this is my first Mafia series and I'm loving it. Next, I read First Love Take 2 by Sajni Patel. This is the second book in the Trouble with Hating You series. This one follows Leah's best friend Preeti and her ex-boyfriend Daniel. I love Daniel. Daniel is new book boyfriend of the year. That'll probably change like 3 or 4 more times, but that's not the point. The one thing that I dislike about this is that it wasn't necessarily and I guess it was miscommunication. It was just one person not telling the other person the full story, and then it caused a 6-year breakup. 6 years is a long time to not tell someone why you broke up with them. And even when they did start talking about it, when she finally started to tell him the truth, she didn't tell him the whole truth. And while I understand why she did it, she should have just went ahead because both of them were unhappy. It didn't make any sense. Overall, it was still a good story though. I did rate it 3.5 stars, but you are going to be very annoyed with Preeti if you read this. Next, I had a pre-order of Master of Souls. This is the final book in the Kingdom of Souls trilogy by Rena Barron, and unfortunately, I did not love this as much as I was hoping to. I did still like it better than Reaper of Souls, but the ending just fell a little flat for me. So if you're unfamiliar, in the first book, we were following a young girl named Ara. Both of her parents are very powerful witch doctors, but she herself does not have any magic, but she's willing to do anything to get it. I loved Kingdom of Souls. It was one of my favorite books that I read last year. I loved it so much that I immediately ordered book 2. Unfortunately, that will likely be on my worst of the year. For this one, I was engaged in the story and I cared, and I was really interested to see how everything was gonna end. But because of where we left off, because of the events in book 2 that irritated me, I wasn't as pulled in as I was the first time around. And then I really hate when authors give you sort of an open-ended conclusion because it doesn't really feel like a conclusion to me. So something happens at the end of the very last chapter, and then in the epilogue when we expect to see that thing come to fruition, it doesn't, and I don't like that. So unfortunately, I'm very disappointed in this series. I ended up rating this one 2.75 stars. I'm glad I read it, I'm glad I know, but it really wasn't as good as I was hoping. Then I attempted to read Hollywood Homicide by Kelly Garrett, and unfortunately I ended up DNFing it at about 30%. I was listening to the audiobook and it was narrated by Bonnie Turbin, who was not my favorite narrator. But on top of that, the main character, Dana, is just really fucking stupid. And she had the opportunity to mend a relationship with a really close friend, someone that she claims to really care about, and she didn't. That's typically my issue with sort of cozy mysteries or amateur sleuths, is if I dislike the main character. And in this one, I did not. I do have like A Sister by Kelly Garrett, so I will still try to read that at some point, but I'm not gonna finish the series. So those are all the things that I read in April. Let me know if you have read any of these or if they are on your TBR. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.